Hailing from the days of Medarot DS, this unicorn type is just a little more aggressive than previous predecessors without trading what made the unicorn line so unique. It is UNI02 Legend Horn, with a kit of hammer, double stat cleanse, multi-legs, and the leg ability of Breakneck, which buffs mobility while in heat phase. Now, Legend Horn is a model that has sparked quite a number of questions over where exactly it's been, as it's certainly had a 3D model as well in the series for quite a number of years, but has been rather sparse, or I should say scarce, in its appearances and presence in Medarot S. But given that its mythological state of a unicorn, I guess that is to be expected of this rather unique model and what it brings to the table. Hammer on the head part is a melee attribute skill that is a full AoE type of attack. This means that upon attacking the target, it will spread the damage across all active parts on the target, which means it can be very solid in the use of silent leader flush out, since damaging the head part of the leader also flushes them out and helps you figure out exactly who to target and how easily it is to take them out. However, it is also worth noting that Hammer can also be sponged or redirected under certain conditions. Those are if they are being intercepted by an incoming shield, or if the enemy has a conceal effect applied to them, where instead of a full AoE, the damage will then be sponged to one particular part it is planning to target instead. Stat Cleanse on both arms are healing attribute skills that, when activated, mean that you are now nullified and immune to all incoming negative ailments up to a certain number of hits. And if you are already inflicted with a negative ailment, Stat Cleanse will also remove it for you. So this is going to be a very solid part that you can use just about anywhere that you need coverage, because Stat Cleanse is just so useful in keeping things off your back. That pesky enemy trying to use fire or melt DOTs, or even something like Deathlock on you, that is no longer a problem. Additionally, Stat Cleanse also counts as a positive buff, which means if there's any leg ability, such as, say, Holy Grease, which boosts your leg stats or give you a perk relative to the number of buffs, well, you already have one stack right there that you can make use of this. Plus, having very solid heating stats in the high 800s means that you can fire this thing off very, very easily at the start of the fight, and very little will be able to outrun you pretty consistently, or even successfully if built with the right kit. Multi-legs means that Legend Horn will have relatively solid coverage across most terrains, and it's honestly been pretty well accepted that multi-legs may not be nearly as, say, fast or as bulky as, say, biped legs might be as far as leg terrain compatibility is concerned, but they certainly make up for it in other ways, such as with heavy limit, or sometimes having just slightly better terrain compatibility. But that is most certainly not the case here with Legend Horn, as it's packing a base mobility of 877, so that is off to a very solid start in the speed department. An evade of 851 isn't too bad. It means that he'll dodge or graze fairly consistently as he decides he feels like it, but definitely not going to be a non-existent chance. A melee resist of 1310 is nice though, as it means that Legend Horn can certainly hold his own up close and personal fairly well, but a shoot resist of 633 is definitely going to be a big pain point for him though, as this means that any incoming fighters that try to take him down from afar are definitely going to be gunning down this unicorn faster than they would trying to get up close in space. However, a heavy support of 2 is really nice on those legs though, even if the pure set is only capable of holding 1. As far as armor is concerned though, it is fairly solid and kind of in that middle ground of where you want to be. A head armor of about 3479 is nice, as it means it can certainly hold its own up close very well. Arm armors at 3239 each, and legs at just shy of 4200 means it's a fairly solid and fairly healthy HP pool, as long as something that isn't trying to shoot it from afar. But that's also before Breakneck comes into effect, which will boost its mobility and evade during heating. So if you didn't think it wasn't fast enough already, well, it's going to be getting even faster while in heating phase alone. All this being said though, as a pure set score, I unfortunately have to rate Legend Horn a pretty low 3 out of 10 as a pure set, primarily for the reason that it only has one combat skill that's capable of using on the field. It only has a limited number of charges that it can make use of with Hammer, and when it chooses to use it, it is kind of blind. Given that it has a success of only 862, it's going to be kind of a very large hit and miss on if you're actually going to be landing the hit in general, let alone even making any lasting damage. And once you run out of head uses, that's kind of it for Legend Horn, and all it can really do is just keep stacking stat cleanse over and over, which becomes redundant after a while. And on the topic of redundancy, having stat cleanse on both arms is indeed redundant. It means once you have stat cleanse applied, you really have no need to use it again unless the stack is removed for whatever reason. Now, granted, on the enemy build, you can kind of circumvent this fairly easily, but there still really is no need to have it on both arms in the same kind of build. However, the multi-legs are nice though, as it gives it a very solid amount of speed and some pretty solid resistance up close, so it can kind of circumvent this problem by being able to fire it off quickly while in succession, and then rely on metaphor spam as necessary. As mixed parts though, I do have to rate it significantly higher at a 7 out of 10, given that even if the hammer isn't something you're going to be using super often, if at all, Stat Cleanse is a part that you generally can never ever go wrong with the build basically anywhere, because it is a very user-friendly part that grants some incredible coverage and protection against enemies that are trying to use ailments against you. And the legs, like I said, are fairly solid with their speed and their melee resist, and the leg ability of Breakneck allowing it to go even faster while in heating means that whatever you choose to set those legs up with means you can use it fairly consistently and fairly solidly with no real drop in overall performance.